Hello, everyone. Welcome to Marginal Support. I am your host, Andre Lindy, and hey, we're back. I took a small break, and we are back with new episodes. So I think there's a couple firsts for this episode. Actually, it's the first time I'm doing a roundtable, which is kind of amazing. But it's also when I started this whole thing, the people you see in front of you, Kenji and Neal, were actually the first two people I had on my show. So I'm hoping they actually see a difference this time around from when I first talked to them and how the show went. But without further ado, the gentlemen that need no introduction, but they're still probably going to introduce themselves, Neal and Kenji.
Nice. Thanks for having us back, Andre. My name is Kenji Hayward. I head up the support team at Front. And if you don't see me on LinkedIn posting stuff, what are you doing? You need to follow me.
Exactly.
I second that motion. My name is Neal. Thank you, Andre, for the opportunity to come back. It's great. Last time we talked about support operations, one of my favorite topics and metrics and stuff. I am actually the head of CX and operations at the Academy to Innovate HR. That's what I do. Outside of that, I sometimes host growth support. It's generally have conversations a lot with the support community. I'm out there. Always happy to chat.
Well, that's great. It's great to have both you gentlemen back. Both of you played a pretty huge role in having me start Marginal Support, where support is anything but marginal. Got to get that in there somewhere. In our discussions leading up to this, we were kind of brainstorming what did we want to talk about, and Neal actually shared a really great article that was showing, I think, something along the lines that, what was it, Neal, that the hiring rate of support has slowed down almost exponentially over the last couple of years, and I think one of the biggest drivers of that is AI. Is that basically the gist of the article we saw?
Yeah, so it's from SaaStr. The article speaks to, effectively the slowing of new hires and new roles in support. So it doesn't necessarily speak to the layoffs or the current career status of it, but it is just specifically talking about new roles and growth within teams, which I thought was really, really interesting. Well, Kenji also mentioned that layoffs are the loudest things that make a lot of noise and that people hear about the most. What you don't necessarily always hear about is, hey, my team is staying the exact same size and I have 0 hires planned for this year. How are we actually dealing with that and kind of getting fresh people into the industry as this kind of hiring slows down and shifts? At least some of my own thoughts on top of the article.
Yeah, I mean, I can personally speak to the slowing of hiring. A bit of a, humor in myself that, hey, I tried to get a job in support and ended up in real estate instead. Who saw that transition, right? But for, kids, I'm curious because, you have started Craft CX, one amazing, by the way. And so you're really leaning into the AI side in terms of what AI can do for support. But I'd love your opinion on this also. Since you are a leader of support, how are you seeing support teams do more with less in a sense? Like, how is AI augmenting your team these days?
Yeah, it's a good topic because I think Neal's, you hit the nail on the head. The things that get the most attention are the layoffs, but what you actually don't see are, I think my team is a reflection of most support teams in San Francisco, like in tech, like the very AI heavy, AI first teams. We're kind of like a prototype of that. And so the challenges I actually see are, yes, one, we're not hiring as much, if at all, because AI is going to kind of shave off. You can just assume that. So even without going into the specifics of AI setup and what you should expect as a support leader, you're probably going to get 20 to 40% deflection. And that's just one part of it. That's just one very small piece of the whole AI efficiency puzzle. The other thing you're going to get is the internal, whether you call it co-pilot or assistant or whatever your internal verbiage is. that is going to make your team more efficient. So like the whole thing of chasing down, you both work in support. You remember this, like chasing down that doc you can't find, or like who's that person in charge of that thing in Notion, or who can approve this refund. Those things are so fast now because it's just, you can literally ask AI, within whatever tool you're using, and you can get that answer. So the biggest challenge I have with not hiring is how do I keep my team growing and interested and engaged? And so you've seen a lot of my posts recently where I'm actually growing folks out of my team, but also I have plans later this year, hopefully, knock on wood, transition more folks internally, to things like operations, which I know Neal's big on. But I think that's the big trend is, teams aren't getting bigger. They're not also getting that much smaller. They're staying about the same. And so it presents new challenges. But I think the efficiency is real. So like, even without the whole AI strategy, like Andre, like if you were going back in and you were the leader of a new support team, one of the biggest things that you're going to look at when you're choosing a new tool is like, you're going to expect certain efficiency gains from AI off the top. Then from there, you kind of go internally, how can I make my team more efficient? And then how can I actually make myself and my operations team more efficient? Like how can I actually use AI for customer data? So dude, it's a wild time. Like the whole like honeymoon phase of should I use it or not is over. And it's like, there are so many other playbooks that are more interesting than just the deflection first thing. But I would say it's real. And so, it presents new challenges, which are exciting for me. So it's like, how do I keep my team growing? How do I evolve them? We have a big initiative with upskilling. And so like this quarter, not forcing them. This is like a big thing too. You don't want to force your team to be AI forward. Like you can't, but I've got goals on usage of the tools as well to make sure that it's useful.
So that's really, I mean, I think that speaks to a lot of what I've been hearing. And hearing you talk about this, actually had me think about something else, is that now that it's not a nice to have, now it is, we're using it. I'm betting, Kenji and Neal, you guys probably get bombarded with use my product, use my product, use my product. How do you cut through the noise these days? Because I mean, when SaaS first came in, people were being just hammered with all these kind of, calls from SDRs and account execs. How do you cut through the noise now with all the people trying to bang down your door and say, use my tool?
I think Neal might be better for this because for me, I literally can't because I work at an AI first support tool. I'd be like, first of all, why are you even calling me or emailing me? So I don't have a lot of choices. That does not stop me from experimenting. So I do use other tools outside of Front because again, there's more to AI support than just the tool itself. But I think probably Neal gets bombarded more than I do these days.
So Kenji, I heard you were using Zendesk over there.
I've gotten that email. I swear it's. Yeah.
Yeah, the outreaches are definitely interesting. I think that with so many new tools and capabilities and things that are out there, yes, there's a lot of outreach, but that's sales doing their job. They're doing certain things. They're trying to outreach. They're trying to grow their organization. It makes sense. To answer your question about how I cut through the noise, I'm not necessarily looking. So that's also one of the things. Like, there are certain things that I will do my own research on. I will try to find certain use cases and then look for tools when I'm ready. But a lot of it, to me, these days, with so many options and vendors becoming available, relationship, I think, is a huge thing. One of the things that I notice a lot about these particular types of outreaches is there's no, hey, this is for me. Like, make it actually relatable to who I am. I know that this outreach is just for me because it's referencing, I don't know, something personal about me or something there. But also, if it's connection request to, hey, try my tool, why should I? What is it in? What's in there for me? What should I actually do with that information? We've built no context or relationship, where most likely when I am ready or when I am in the market to go look at new tooling, it's going to be the ones that I have a good brand relationship with, where, hey, I recognize that, I've seen this in the market, this looks like they're actually out there working with people, where I think that the more human relationship and the experience that you create ahead of time within your brand would be a really important way to look at things as well. If you look at things that Front is doing, when you look at things that Help Scout is doing, when you look at a lot of these organizations that are out with the community and working with them, then I think that you're more likely to go try their tool, for example. Whereas some random tool that I've never heard of comes out of the blue and says something with no relationship built, I'm way less likely to try it and experiment with it. Whereas if you are a part of it and you actually take the time to provide reward back, like give value back to people, then I think that's something that will go much further.
Yeah, I was actually at a AI support conference. Shout out to CS Labs. This was like a few months ago, but they did a whole panel of like why people chose the vendor they chose, and relationships was the thing. They didn't always go with the biggest name, but it was who could, kind of crazy, like in an AI first world, like the human relationship that was built best. Those are the folks that they chose. And I can't say who, but I did the same thing as well, where I tested, actually went with a pretty small, like no name kind of vendor that you probably both haven't heard of. But because of like the experience I had with them, like having lunch with them, they would come out to the meetups I would host, like just kind of developing a relationship. And then the other last piece of advice I would give is like ask your peers. Like I would ask Neal, us, Andre. I see a lot of people post in the support driven channels of like, has anyone used this tool? I take that word of mouth more than anything, but I think like even before the AI sales pitches, like I would ignore the other noise unless I had a real need and I was looking.
I'll add one other thing. Outside of like the relationships and the sales, like even if you don't know a vendor at all, the thing that I would do is really think ahead of time before even looking at vendors of what are the real requirements that you want this thing to do. And is it, for example, that Copilot use case? Is it a customer-facing solution? What are the things that you really need requirement-wise? And then go try to seek out that vendor or that tool that is going to work and fit those particular needs the best for you, rather than just like, okay, every tool ever, let's go explore and pick. I think being strict with those requirements really helps you narrow it down, even if it's a tool you weren't expecting to come across or use. Really starting strict with those requirements.
So I'm going to try to shoehorn this analogy in here, just because of what you're talking about here, Neal. And this is partially because what I've been looking at right now. Kenji, you directed me to the Anthropic AI Fluency course, which I think is actually really good. And one thing that they really talk about in there that I think a lot of people don't really understand is how important your prompts are. How you have to be very clear, you have to be very precise with your prompts. And to go back to what both of you were saying, I think this is something that maybe a lot of people in sales or on outreach don't really know how to give the right prompt when they're reaching out to support leaders and trying to show their product. They're trying to do maybe the old shotgun method or saying, hey, just try my product. But in an age where everyone is using Gen AI and a lot of people are using horrible prompts, do you think the salespeople who are using the better prompts are going to elicit a better response from
you? I think if you're in the market, you probably have a better shot. I think if you're like Neal and I, where you're absolutely not looking, probably not. This is like I'm giving tips to the people I don't want to reach out to me. But I will say the more personalized, the harder it is to ignore. Like I have people send me video clips and they'll go, hey, I watched I watched Marginal Support episode, the recent one. I love what you said about this. Like that's hard to ignore. The fact it doesn't make me want to buy your product, but it does get my attention. So I do think personalization is probably one of the only ways you can stand out. The same way like with support, like it's all going to get to a point where it can all be about the same with AI's help. What makes it special, right? It's like it's the human element. So I think they go through the kind of the same thing on the sales go-to-market side, which Neal is now more a part of and maybe more connected to.
Yeah, like I have a respect for outbound salespeople. Like there's a tough job for sure. I've done it. Like being in sales is quite difficult in the first place. Yeah, it really does come down to quality and not necessarily treating every single outreach as just, hey, let's just mass go and just see what small percentage will land. But that can also hurt your brand relationship in the future. If I do go looking for tools, like Kenji mentioned, I'm not necessarily open to tools, but I will be at some point, and if I am at some point, I don't want to go look at your tool and be like, yeah, I remember that person, that really thing that was really bad. I'm not going to go with that product in a sense. At the same time, I don't necessarily want to focus on it. I did get attention from somebody who left me some voice memos when their initial outreach didn't work, and that was pretty at least a nice touch, because you can actually hear the person, you can hear that it's like a real person, and that they're actually making it a bit more personal in that way. But yeah, I think it's also the same with job applications as well. Like as a hiring manager in this market, you see the same thing with job applications actually when people apply for the roles that you have open. Just the vast difference between somebody who you see who is just spamming through those versus somebody who actually takes the time to go through, really fill out that application and do it. It really hits different. And I think that's where you start to really see the difference between things that stand out versus things that blend into the noise, is that genericness that comes with it.
I think that holds very true. What was it? I was recently talking to a friend, and they said that for one position, they got 1,400 applications for one role. And you have to think, okay, how many of those roles were probably maybe a cover letter, someone just put the job description in chat, said, hey, write my resume or create my cover letter, right? And so you got to have a little bit of empathy, one for the screeners or the recruiters that are going through all this, and then the hiring managers, they're probably just wading through so many resumes these days. AI has definitely changed the way that the way we work. But Kenji, I want to get back to something you said, and this is also going to rate this, and I saw you post recently, Neal, and that goes to the relations in the community. So first, Kenji, I want to ask you, what has been your experience around trying to create a more organic community within the Bay Area for support people here? Because I attended a couple of those. How do you feel that has taken shape, and what are you proud about that? And then Neal, obviously, since you're not in the Bay Area, I want to get your opinion then on how you feel about, last year you had your first speaking engagement, and now it feels like it's something that's coming maybe a little more regularly or a little more natural. Both of these are around building community and support, but in two different ways. And, you both can jump into it because I know you do that as well, Kenji. But first, Kenji, what's been your experience, and what have you seen about trying to create this organic community within the Bay Area?
Yeah, and you were at my first two for sure, Andre. And like the thing that's changed since those first ones, where I kind of leaned on front to sponsor, right? And it kind of put me in a weird position where I do work for a support company. So if you want it to be organic, it's really got to be grassroots. And so I cut tie, as much as I love the fancy dinners and like the lunches and stuff, I was like, if I really want to focus on community, I have to take the sponsorship out. So the rules are no sales pitches, no sponsors. We're just there to talk about support, and it's a come and go as you please thing. No fancy RSVPs. It's been really successful. Like the largest one I had was almost 40 people, and this is just like middle of the day, Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. But like pretty amazing. And like the last one we did recently, just same thing. Like the level of like leadership and like networking opportunities, and just like there's so many conversations happening at once. That's about as grassroots and community driven as you get. Like the whole reason I did it was like I love meeting you guys, right? Like I need to meet Neal in person, but like Andre, we just grabbed coffee, right? Like we DM'd each other, we met up, and I think I was inspired by that, and I kind of was like, I want to do more of that. Like I want to actually take this offline. As much as I love posting on LinkedIn, I think I get more energy out of just meeting people, who work in support, and not having to wait for an event to happen. Because, one, they're very expensive. So if you're out of work, or if your company doesn't sponsor it, or you're not speaking at the event, it's really hard to attend these things. And then two, like accessibility. I, just like both of you, I'm a father of young kids. I can't go to these late night happy hours. So selfishly, I'm like, if I want to do this, I need to do it and make it as effortless as possible. The whole friction thing for support. I need to remove the friction, make it free, make it accessible, and make it super optional. And so that's kind of the way I approach it. Like, I think if you want it to be organic, you have to like create an event, but actually just people will come if, with support. I think we have enough passion in our community where as long as you throw out an invite, you're probably going to get a pretty good turnout.
Great. Neal, to you, first, I want to ask you, first I want to see, have you seen anything like this in your neck of the world? Is it a little more rare for there to be these kind of professional outings? Because I mean, the US is very like, hey, let's go hang out. But I don't know if it's more like if Europeans are more like that. I mean, what's your feeling on that? And then let's jump into, your speaking engagements.
Sure. Listen, we have Z Local Amsterdam in Support Driven. We got a pretty cool group, all right? We meet up, we go to lunch sometimes. It's pretty awesome. So we also have a bit of a local group, and we've co-worked with each other as well, in some cases. So it's been pretty interesting building the small group of folks that we have here. It's like 7 to 10 folks or so that are really active, and we meet up. And yeah, funniest one I think was we planned to go to a lunch, and then I had a support ticket for Help Scout. Javier helped me in the morning, and then he came to lunch with me in the afternoon. So it was a funny little interaction there, where it's a small world. But yeah, so it's pretty good. Definitely a little bit of a quieter size of community, I would say. But the ones who are active are quite active. So it's small but mighty. When it comes to the speaking engagements and things like that, yeah, there's not as many opportunities, I would say, as there is in the States per se, because most of the communities that we are in are US based, and so when they do come out to Europe, it is quite the activity. So I made it out to London last year, October, for Elevate CX. Great experience. I think there was about 40-50 people or so who showed up. We got to talking, and it was really, really great to also meet a lot of the people in the area, and people I haven't seen for have met online for a lot, but never actually in person. And then we finally got to meet in person, which is totally different experience. And it feels really comfortable because you speak to them online so much that when you actually do finally meet in person, it's not this awkward like, hello, who are you? What's going on? But you actually recognize them and bring that already pre-existing relationship into things. So it makes the whole event feel a lot more comfortable as well. And then Support Driven Amsterdam is coming this year as well. So that is going to be also a fun one, I think.
Man, I'm so bummed I can't go. I was supposed to. Neal and I were actually going to do a fireside chat together. That was the original plan. But my Japan trip, Andre, like I go to Japan just like you go to Korea every summer. It's on like the same week, so unfortunately, didn't work out.
That is one that's a bummer. But something Neal said to me sparked a post you had, Kenji, and it kind of speaks to about this community building. About this, we're strangers, but we're not strangers at the same time. And I remember that when you went to front over in Europe, I think it was maybe France, you had a chance to meet Max. And, and I think that speaks to, we see each other on LinkedIn a lot, we see each other on Support Driven. And so when you see these people, it's a complete stranger, but it's not a stranger at the same time. So what I'm curious for both of you is how have these opportunities to interact with these people online and then speak with them offline, how has this changed how you interact with people?
I think it's... Go ahead, Neal. Go ahead.
I was gonna say for me, what is really an interesting piece of it, because I interact, like I really try to be as active in the communities as possible, and that means that when I do actually get to meet these people, you get to kind of do a couple of things. One, it's, to me, I consider all of the people within my professional network also my friends. Like, if I were to talk about Kenji or you, Andre, in my conversations with my team, I'm like, oh yeah, Kenji, my friend, he does this thing, it's super cool. Which means that when we actually get to those interactions in person, to me it just feels like, yeah, we're just continuing the conversation. It's not anything that's different from when we would normally chat or meet. And you kind of skip that awkward phase and get really into the meaty value pretty quickly. I actually had Scott from Support Driven come through. We hung out one day, had lunch. It was a good time. And there we also like got to skip the introductions a little bit, and then we actually got to have a much more fruitful conversation in person because it just felt comfortable already being so active and talking as well.
I think for me, it's just, I don't know if you guys both feel this, but I feel more inclined to reach out to folks now, like, and especially like if you're in the area, like that's why I reached out to Max. It's like, hey, I'm going to be in Paris, and I do this with Neal too. I'm like, hey, I'm going to be in Europe at this time. Like, just if you just so happen to be free, like let's meet up. And I try to do that everywhere I go now. Where before I started this whole, reaching out, trying to connect on LinkedIn, like I was very much a lurker. So I think my perception of connecting with people has changed a lot where it's very real. Like it's not just us commenting on each other's post or like DMing each other. Like we're actually building real relationships because it does feel like old friends. Like we haven't met yet, Neal, but when we do, it's going to be like old buddies. And then when I met Andre, we had probably exchanged like 3 messages at most. But I'm like, dude, this is somebody I feel like I've hung out with for 10 years or something. Like it's just, you can't, I don't know, like this is the most valuable thing about this whole thing is like, what am I trying to get out of building a community, out of doing all the social stuff? I just want to build more connections. And I think that that's changed a lot. And I've got a lot more friendships because of it. And I'll probably have a lot more, by the end of this year too. So it's pretty cool.
I can definitely relate to. I mean, it's for me, selfishly, what I've seen is that when I started to do this podcast, I was just running it. I was the person reaching out to a lot of people randomly. And I'm like, hey, I've seen your post here, I've seen your post there. And most people in the community are like, cool, sweet, let's do it, right? And the very strange thing in the more recent LinkedIn post I did was that now that I said, hey, I'm going to restart recording more episodes, people were coming to me now and saying, hey, I want to be on your show. I'm just like, gaw? What's going on here? And so I think it speaks to our community is that let's say you see an episode, you say, hey, I know this person. I saw them on growth support, or, that you saw them on some other thing. Hey, I want to reach out to them now. So I really think that the fact that as a community, we're trying to do more podcasts, I think it's better for us because support often is, it is this role that if you're in it, you love it. It's a tight-knit group. But sometimes we are kind of like hermits. Before we started this, we were very, I'm going to stay in my bubble. I'm support for this company, and I don't talk to support for anyone else. And so I think, Kenji, what I think I applaud you for doing is trying to like create this community piece. Like you said at one of our meetups, hey, look at CSMs. Look at their meetups. Their meetups are huge. They're massive. Mm-hmm. And so I really think it's good that we are really trying to break out of that. We're just support nerds. We're really trying to say, here's who we are. We're awesome people. Come hang out with us. So what has been, for both your teams, what has been your advice for them when they are trying to evangelize for themselves or they're trying to, show who they are? How have you tried to kind of help maybe some of these people be a little more vocal about who they are and be proud about what they're doing?
I try to set an example, but I've got folks just like this. Like Luke's not on this call, Phoebe's not on this call, but they're very much a part of, the circle. But that's kind of what whether they want me to post about their wins, I actually encourage them to post more because like Andre, like to kind of bring it full circle, AI is making it harder to get jobs because we're hiring less. You've got to find ways to stand out within the company. Guess what? You know what? One of the biggest benefits of me evangelizing for myself is I built a personal brand at front. Everybody knows who I am. Everyone knows who my team is. And that works outside of front as well. So I encourage my team to share their wins. Like, I didn't get permission from Luke to say this, but he was hesitant to share this amazing project that he had built. Like he had built this, CSAT AI analysis system that just kind of blew my mind. I'm like, you have to post about this. If you're not going to post, I'm going to post. So I think that's what I try to do, which is really make it an atmosphere where we share wins and we have to be vocal. And it kind of sucks, yes. Like the whole reason that, CSM events are gigantic and, mine are like 20 to 40. support just has to be more vocal. And one of the things, like, I'm not a naturally vocal, outwardly social person, but we have to build that muscle. So it's almost something that I kind of not train my team, but I encourage my team to build.
On my side, I can definitely speak to a couple of things. My team is a bit hermits. They're still in their bubble, which is I think funny because it's their first. For many of them, it's their first in place in this environment that we've been in for some time. And for me, I try to, as much as possible, connect them to resources. So they are all in the communities in Slack as well, but how much they engage there is like absolutely minimal. But they're dipping their toes, so they're starting to get out there and starting to connect. And I have, for example, one of my team members who's really pushing for their growth at the moment. And actually, I reached out to Luke and to Kenji and say, hey, can we get some mentorship set up? Do we have a room to maybe connect our teams so that they can grow together? And actually, that team member is also now doing the Aspire mentorship program to try to grow and to learn. So for me, it's a bit being the role model, but also being a facilitator for these connections of using my own network to try to help them in some way, whether it's connecting them with somebody else in the community or trying to show them that, hey, this channel for this particular vendor is really active. If you want to know anything or you want to get better at using this tool, like just jump in the channel and ask. People are super happy to help. And then if they don't feel comfortable with it, I'll ask and I'll do it and show them that, hey, people are happy to help. So I think for them, it is really about understanding where they're at and developing internally, and then when they're ready to take that further and start branching out, it goes along the lines of the skills that we talked about a little bit earlier, where support skill sets are becoming a bit more complex than just that normal foundational skill set that we were looking at previously. It's a required different set of skills, and that upskilling is going to be quite quick because of the rapid growth and development of the tooling that we have. And the only way to develop that quickly is to reach out and see if other people have also been able to do that and connect with them. So try and do that as much as possible.
I'm really happy you brought that up, Neal, actually, because there was a post, about a month or two ago by Susanna, where she started her newsletter for support leaders, and I think it really hit the nail on the head in terms of both what she was doing about teaching yourself Python, getting really good at Cloud Code and things like that. That you're in real time seeing the transformation of the support world and the support role itself. You no longer can go from people that are, hey, I'm great at soft skills, to, we have to really shift our focus where we have to be what I call basically software engineer light. I'd love to get your opinion on this because it feels like that's where it's kind of shifting, is where support is expecting to do a lot more with less, but their skill set has to change drastically now with the shifting landscape. I'd love to get both your opinions on that because, Neal, you touched on that a bit, but I'd love to dig in that a little deeper. And obviously, Kenji, I'd love to get your opinion on that as well.
I think that the model that support has followed for the past 20 plus years or something doesn't work anymore necessarily, where it's if you look at the classic career path from years ago, I started on the ground floor, I started in the call center, I started just in tier 1 and I developed my skills, and then maybe I got internally promoted to tier 2 and just continued up that vertical path, and maybe I got into a specialism, but mostly it's management and continued there. And I think that those kinds of evolutions don't necessarily follow or track anymore. Although I would put a big disclaimer, do not discount those soft skills. Just like what you mentioned before about prompts, like it's only going to be as good as the orchestrator or the person who's in the driver's seat. And if you expect somebody who doesn't have those soft skills to try and orchestrate an AI experience that needs those soft skills and that nuance, it's definitely something that will be needed and will be valued. But I do agree with you. People who will succeed the most, it really depends on your product and your environment, I think. some level of technical skill will be needed, but I use technical skill lightly because I myself don't consider myself a technical person per se, but I am really good with breaking down processes and following the chain of things. Even if I don't have that technical skill, the process skill is really what I use quite a lot to my advantage. And I think people like that who can kind of step back, see the overlying picture in the helicopter view, and move the pieces around and understand how they work in tandem will do very successful, or will be very successful. But that is the kind of thinking that you need to get into. You're not just solving that customer's problem anymore. You're orchestrating the system that is solving that problem. And for that, you need to take the step back and really think much broader.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, I don't know if you saw Sarah Bett's post about raccoon people or system thinkers, but that's really it. And I actually have an opposing take on the everyone's going to be technical. I actually think all the tools are going to level the playing. You look at Cursor, right? Like, we can all, like Susanna, I can vibe code, I can build an app. I think the things that we consider technical in tier two and tier three support, the tools that we leverage are going to make it easy enough where as long as you, like Andre, you're taking that course, like as long as you up level enough to know how to use AI, you're going to be able to do those things. So I think we're going to see more of a merge of the two, but I do agree with Neal. I think the systems thinkers who can kind of zoom out and see how it all works. I think this is ops at the end of the day. Like we both made this prediction probably even 2 years ago that support operations is the future. I would still place my bets there. A lot of people call it different things, support engineers. But I think, in the day, it's ops. It's like who are building the systems, who are building the workflows, who's implementing the efficiency, who's building the knowledge base, which is still very much important. And the tip I would give is because I work in San Francisco, I feel like I kind of have this crystal ball into the future of like what the prototype is. Go look at OpenAI, Anthropic, Perplexity, like any of these larger AI companies. Look at the support roles, read the job description. Those are probably going to be the ones that are the new job description in like a couple of years, like more broadly. But that's why I always get super interested when they post stuff because I'm like, that's got to be the future.
Uh, Thanks, Andre. Thanks for having us.